and welcome to iBuzz. I'm your host, Nosheen Bukhari, bringing you your most favorite news from the entertainment world, followed by a very interesting discussion on stand-up comedy and women's role in it. First things first, let me quickly take you to the top stories of the day. Kelly Osbourne has called for cancel culture to be replaced by council culture. Leslie Jones to host the MTV Movie and TV Awards next month. Chris Pratt fights to save the world in teaser for the Tomorrow War Geek Tyrant. Parminder Nagra says a TV show turned her down for being of Indian descent. Brit Awards 2021 double trophy for winners revealed. Coming to the top story of the day, Kelly Osbourne has called for cancel culture to be replaced by council culture. The 36-year-old star has hit out at the trend of vilifying people for their hurtful comments and instead believes others should teach them and give a gentle nudge in the right direction to better understand why their remarks have proven to be upsetting. To discuss this further, we have two guests on board with us. We have Monica Charsley, who is a multimedia journalist, podcaster, and regular reviewer. Monica, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And then we have Matthew Butler-Hart, who is a filmmaker and an author and co-founder of Fizz and Ginger Films. Welcome to the show, Matthew.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello.
So, Monica, tell us about your thoughts. I mean, do you think that this statement given by Kelly Osbourne will be welcomed? I mean, counsel, not cancel, especially when it is, clearly given in defense of her mother.
She used quite a lot of strong words, say scary, afraid. She even mentioned public execution. So all the words she used were very negative connotations. And obviously, in terms of defending her mother was on that talk show for over a decade. Yeah. And, council culture seems to have come into play. So I can understand why she may be saying this isn't the best way to deal with things. It's just cancelling her and sweeping her under the rug. But if you could adopt maybe a more gentler approach, teaching someone, maybe they can learn from it more than just being cancelled.
Right. And Matthew, the statements that she has given are, I don't know what was really going on in this country. And then she goes, she only knew that simply not being racist is enough. Then she goes that educate yourself and don't be afraid to make a mistake. I mean, what is this statement depicting? That is she actually wanting people to, forgive her mother and let her start fresh? Or do you think that this is an insensitive statement?
Yeah, it's an interesting statement. I think she is asking people to forgive her mother. To be honest, the problem is, she said that we should, educate people and gently nudge them rather than, a public execution. The problem is, the gentle nudging for some people hasn't been working. People have been gently nudging people for a while, and which is why deplatforming is happening. Taking away the platforms that these people have. Which I think is important. We've come to a point in all our societies where people have finally had enough and are standing up for themselves and for others, which is great. And I think some people have just been caught. It's happening so quickly now for some of these people that they just don't know how to adapt to it. I think that's partly the problem.
Right. And Matthew, do you think that this statement given by Sharon Osbourne, whereas we clearly see that Sharon Osbourne has never been very close to Piers Morgan, but when she supported his statement, it was rumored that she was also patted by the royals, because we know how loyal Piers Morgan has been to the royals. And it's an inside statement that he was also patted by the royals after giving his statement against Meghan Markle. Do you think that Sharon Osbourne did the same to get, patted and, to get support from the royals by supporting Piers Morgan's statement?
I honestly, I don't know if she was thinking that far ahead, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I can't, we can't say for sure. I don't think so. I think she was sort of caught off guard and was defending her friend. The problem with that is, if we have friends who have those sort of views, and if we genuinely don't agree with them, it's up to us to say that and to stand against what they're saying. So I don't know if she properly thought it through, and now it seems like she's quickly regretting saying it. But that's these days that's not really enough. But yeah, I don't know if she has many connections with the royals, to be perfectly honest.
Right. And Monica, we've also learned that Kelly is launching a show where she says that guests can talk about anything without worrying about saying the wrong thing. It's a call for cancellation itself. Do you think so? I mean, this statement is also very sensitive. So do you think that this show will never make it before it's even launched?
I think freedom of speech comes a lot into play, but sometimes you can't say everything that you want to say. Sometimes your opinion can be too much. So I think it's a fine line of, yes, you should be able to have an opinion, but it doesn't mean you can just say what you want and hurt who you want in the process. So I think depending on how she goes with this, if she completely says, it's non-censored, I think this could cause a bit of a backlash depending on what topic she brings on the show.
Right. And do you think that this is this can be taken as going very further in support, in defense of her mother, releasing such statements? Of course, we know that Sharon herself has released an apology statement, but Kelly Osbourne is doing something opposite. So do you think that this is something, getting out of proportions?
I think if you were looking at it from a sibling or a parent and daughter, type of view, you are doing it in the defense. However, the whole topic on what it's about is very sensitive. It's about racism, and it's about how someone's perceived something. And if someone perceives it that way, then people should respect it and understand it. So I think it has gone out of context and maybe a bit out of proportion. Sharon said, I don't think what he said is racist. Please tell me what he said. And, with that, she was pretty much deplatformed. She resigned from her show. And I think there could have been further discussion there instead of all of this happening. Instead of her needing to resign, there could have been definitely more of a discussion. So I do think it's gone a bit out of hand. She's been on the show for so long.
Right. And Matthew, what are your thoughts on launching her show on the basis of this statement that anybody can talk about anything?
When you start giving platforms, the majority of platforms to people who incite hate, realistically as well. If this show is genuinely balanced, then it could be a really interesting thing to observe. But as Monica was saying, it's a really delicate subject. The world is going through, thankfully, huge changes, in societies all around the world. And it's very, very important, and discussion has to be part of that as well. It's when the platforms get overbalanced towards just one side, that's when things get very, very dangerous, as they have been. So it could be an interesting show. I think it depends. They have to just do things very, very carefully, very delicately, and really think about how this affects people watching as well, not just for ratings, but from a bigger picture.
Right. And Matthew, what do you think that could be the reason for being so insensitive towards this topic, especially racism, when Kelly herself had been a victim of body shaming for the longest? And we have seen her, writing articles, coming and appearing in the interviews, talking about her journey, how she felt, and how she dealt with the mean comments when she was, body shamed. And now, supporting her mother and her act. How do you see this? And don't you think that they need to be more careful, despite the fact that Osbournes have been very controversial in the past as well?
Yeah, I think you do have to be careful, and and it's great what Kelly has been doing for certain marginalised people. The problem is you can't. It starts to get a bit hypocritical if you say you can't say these things about these people, but this is fine. It starts to get very unbalanced again, I think, which is a shame.
Right. And Monica, when we say teach and educate rather than canceling, what measures do we exactly mean when we talk about, educating on sensitive subjects, especially when we take Kelly's statement where she said that, counsel, not cancel. So what sort of education does she mean here, especially for the celebrities?
I think it's about listening, having the ability to listen, having the ability to empathise, to understand, even teaching those basic skills. And apart from that, there's tons of resources for people to do. So it's about not just having a discussion, and it could be as simple as pulling your friend aside saying, look, this is what you said and this is how it's come across. It's about teaching each other. It doesn't all need to be written down. It can literally just be as easy as a conversation.
And Matthew, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, what do you exactly see taking measures when we talk about educating celebrities on these sensitive subjects?
Yeah, I completely agree with Monica. I mean, it has to start with conversations. It has to start with people in their lives as well. So if you're talking about like the Sharon Osbournes or the Piers Morgans, it has to be people in their world, in their circles as well, also having the conversations and trying to explain why what they are doing can be perceived as harmful to certain people as well. But it always starts with a conversation, because if we just hit people with a hammer, metaphorically, then people tend to react. They'll almost double down, and then things escalate, and their views tend to escalate as well. So things do have to be done, I suppose, delicately. But when things get to a certain point where they're not learning, that's when I think the platforms do need to be taken away, I'm afraid.
Right. And Matthew, don't you think that sometimes it's the social media that plays a huge part in, escalating a situation? Sometimes the statement is not how it's taken, but the way it's represented through social media, it escalates the situation. Don't you think that it's not always the celebrity or a personality to be blamed, but sometimes it's the social media that ignites the situation? Yeah,
it's the whole machine, I suppose, needs to be looked at. I mean, how we do that, I mean, who knows? But that's why I always, if I see something online, I'll go and try and verify it from different sources to see if what I've read is actually true, because things can be taken out of context, or a lot of the time things are it's just misinformation. But I do think, social media has so many amazing aspects to it. Unfortunately, a lot of the time it's used for for evil rather than good. But it's up to us. It's up to people as well to if we see something, find out exactly the context of this. Where has it come from? Have they actually said it? And look at other perspectives to see the truth of it. Really, don't just take things at face value. And that's the problem. I think a lot of the time people just believe exactly those 242 characters. That was longer now. Those characters, and then think that's gospel, which is dangerous.
Monica and Matthew, thank you very much indeed for your time and discussion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was Matthew and Monica sharing their thoughts on Kelly Osbourne's statement. Moving to other story details of the day. Comedian Leslie Jones will host the 2021 MTV Movie and TV Awards set for Sunday, May 16th. The show will air live from Los Angeles at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. In addition, Leslie Jones is nominated for her first MTV Movie and TV Award this year for Best Comedy Performance for her character in Coming to America opposite Eddie Murphy. An action-packed teaser trailer has been launched for Amazon's upcoming sci-fi movie, The Tomorrow Battle, in which Chris Pratt is on a mission to assist save the world. The film is directed by Chris McKay from a script by Zach Dean. The Tomorrow Battle hits Prime Video on July 2nd. British Asian actress Parminder Nagra has said she was once turned down for a role on a well-known U.S. TV show because they already had enough Indian people. She told a podcast she had also produced on an unnamed production say too many brown people would not sell. Nagra made her name in the 2002 UK film Bend It Like Beckham before appearing in the American medical drama series ER. While noting how on-screen diversity has improved, she said she hoped it was not just a quota-filling exercise. Remember all those award speeches where an emotional winner said they wanted to share their prize with someone important? Well, pop stars at next month's Brit really can do that. This year's trophy has been revealed, and it comes with a special second statuette, which recipients can give to someone else as an act of kindness. And we hope that this time they actually share their awards to set the trend. We will be right back after a quick short break. Don't go anywhere and stay tuned. Welcome back. In this segment, we will be talking about stand-up comedy and women's role in it. Stand-up comedy that was once dominated by men only has opened its doors to the talented women as well, hence leaving it a diverse field where women are contributing equally. Despite facing gender imbalance in terms of appearance, pay, and representation, these women are not stopping to create wonders in the comedy world. To have a further discussion on this, we have Humay Waseem with us. Welcome to the show, Humay.
Thank you for having me.
So, Humay, you have been performing as a stand-up comedian. Tell us about your experience being a comedian woman, a stand-up comedian woman.
Yeah, so I was very lucky to have the opportunity of performing with Aurat Naak, which is the first all-women stand-up troupe to launch in Pakistan. They were established by Faiza Salim, as you know, who is a seasoned comedian, in Karachi, then in Lahore, and then finally in 2018 they came to Islamabad. And they mentored me along with a group of 9 other women. Our mentor was Hassan, who's also a very established comedian. And for 1 month, we were just practicing. We were getting out of our comfort zones. We were standing in front of absolute strangers and then just talking about very personal things. But it was a lot of fun. It was exhilarating as well, but it was so much fun because getting to make people laugh is just a beautiful experience.
Right.
And we had
Humay, tell us about like the sense of humor in women. It was previously thought to have meant the ability to laugh at a man's joke, and now women, you know, they are making people laugh, which include men and women equally. I mean, how do you feel about these changing trends now?
I think it's a misconception that women can't be funny or not as funny as men. Because the women that I worked with here in Islamabad, they were absolutely hilarious. I think why a lot of men tend to assume that women aren't funny is because many of our jokes may not be very relatable to them because our problems are very unique to us.
Right. And do you think that it is kind of difficult to manage crowd, especially, you know, being a woman? Like you said, that it is a misconception that women cannot be funny, but at times, you know, they're not taken funny. They are funny, but then there are certain stereotypes in every society. So do you think that at times it becomes challenging to engage the audience being a you know, female comedian?
Well, thankfully, personally for me, I did not face that challenge. I think that if your jokes are strong enough and your punchlines are in place and there's this aspect of universality in your jokes, then men could also read with them. Certainly, there are certain jokes which do not land well with men, but I think that if you have an open mind, then you can certainly laugh at them.
Right. And how much do you improvise on stage while, you know, performing the show? Is it always scripted? Is it always going with the flow, or do you, you know, improvise as much as you can?
That's a good question. So initially, in my first 2 shows, it was just me. I had memorized the script, but when I was performing, it was as if I was ad-libbing, because I don't feel that comfortable initially. But the 3rd time, I did develop comfort, and I was able to have that camaraderie with the audience, and I could come up with some improvised lines as well. So I think once you develop comfort, then it's easy to just do it impromptu.
Right. And Humay, also tell us that how well do you manage when you have a serious opinion, because once you're a comedian, then everybody takes you comedian in your normal life as well. And have you experienced it not being taken serious in a serious conversation because people know you as a comedian? And if it happens, how do you manage to, you know, sustain your opinion?
You know, it's true that once people perceive you as a comedian, they will have some preconceived notions that either they'll think that you'll make them laugh in every situation, or like you said, they would think that her opinion does not have that much weightage. And yes, that has happened with me. But I think that it's all about persona. So when I'm on stage or any comedian is on stage, they have this persona which might not be the real them in one-on-one interactions.
Right.
So people say to me that I have two personas. One is like extremely bubbly and funny, and the other is this very serious person. And that's what it is.
Okay, and Humay, tell us about the content that you create. I mean, do you exclusively focus on women and their roles, or is it general? I mean, how do you create your content? What exactly is the focus? And do you see it as like, do you give it as a message, or it is just for entertainment purposes?
So for me, it's inspired by, of course, my life and then the society that I see around me. Things that tick me off, they're definitely there. There's a lot of discussion on social issues, being a woman in Pakistan. So my jokes had a lot to do with the arranged marriage process, which you might know is sometimes nerve-wracking for women. In fact, a lot of the times nerve-wracking for women. So that's one of the topics that I used. And then women's mobility in public spaces. So for me, my comedy does have a message.
Okay, okay. And tell us that, is it a gifted process, or everybody can become a comedian by a little bit of practice? I mean, do you think that sarcasm can be developed in a person, or it is just a God-gifted thing to be a comedian?
Another good question. I think it's a bit of both. So I know people who are extremely funny without even trying, and you think that, okay, this person has it very naturally. But then I think that also everybody can do comedy. Just like everybody can sing. It doesn't mean you could sing well or you could do great comedy, but I think anybody can write a script and have funny things to say.
And Humay, let's talk about the platforms that are provided, or maybe not, to these comedians. We're not talking about exclusively women here. We're talking about, you know, male comedians as well. Do you think that there are enough platforms, especially now that we have pandemic and, you know, the shows, they're not happening anywhere, the performances have stopped. Of course, there is a medium which has been taken as an alternative, the online performances. But do you think that there are ample platforms for these performers, especially when we talk about the online platforms?
I think we live in a wonderful time where everybody has a platform. Even a kid can go on YouTube and post a video. So the opportunity is everywhere. If you are a funny person, if you want to do stand-up comedy, you can write your own sketch and you can post it online on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram. And you can garner following. Like, we know many comedians who started off just making funny videos. And as for live shows, I think there are many avenues here in Islamabad. We have Theatre Wale, we have Fate, we have PNCA, we have cafes that also give you space. Like, one of our shows was at Sitar Baksh, the other was at Cafe Garage, one of them was in Lahore, Last Word Books. So there are these platforms, and there's a lot of demand for comedy as well.
Right. And Humay, tell us about the age group that you have targeted. I mean, what sort of audiences do you catch the most when you organize a show or you perform in a show? What age group do you see that is, you know, welcoming you?
So our shows do not permit anybody younger than 18 to be a part of them.
Because of the
audience.
content?
The content can be risque. Anyone over 18 and doesn't matter, you could be 10 years old. You can come. One of the comedians is 65 years old. Her name is Bibi, and she's hilarious. So yeah, there's no such age limit.
Right. And has it ever happened that you have been criticized there and then during the show upon the content that you're talking about?
Personally, no.
Situation that you've come across with?
I have not been criticized, but there have been hecklers. Sometimes while performing, this happens that you tend to just forget your line. There was this one heckler, and I've forgotten my line for like just a second. And he's like, "Oh, bhul gayi," like, you forgot it. I was like, "Listen, you've never done this before." So then everybody started laughing because I turned the joke around on her.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Humay, thank you very much indeed for your time. Really enjoyed this discussion.
Thank you very much for having me.
That was Humay Waseem with her thoughts and stories in the comedy world. And that is it from today's episode. We hope you liked it. Don't forget to share your feedback on the social media link mentioned down below. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care and goodbye.